I posted something at my Patreon recently,
Mm-hmm.
which was the design mechanism, an animation of the interior design mechanism of the Kalashnikov rifle, the famous AK-47.
Yeah.
And the diagram shows the gas piston action of the interior, which is incredibly low tech. And in a word, allows the gun to fire as long as you depress the trigger. So
Right.
if you want single shot, squeeze once. If you want to go onto auto, just hold it down. The ejection mechanism, the replacement of the bullet mechanism is exactly the same. It's driven by funneling some of the gas of the explosion, of the percussion and explosion. Some of that gas is actually driven backwards into the chamber, and it actually provides the pressure to eliminate the casing, to allow the new bullet to spring into place, and to clear the mechanism of whatever gunk is in there. Furthermore, but this is the feature that I wanted to focus on. The feature I wanted to focus on is that the Kalashnikov was built deliberately clunky. Each piece does not have to be precision tooled.
Right.
And each piece sits loosely in its fitting. So anything that's the thing that spins around is not perfectly machined to be precisely the same diameter as the rod that it's on.
Right.
And it can be a little to the left, a little to the right, in its position. The housing is deliberately a little bulkier than it needs to be. The spring, that slides back and forth, is the mechanism of it is such that the spring could be a little borked, like a little warped in one spot or two, and still work. So, it's not meant to be. It's a deeply non-precision fitting together of every one of these pieces.
Right.
And what that means is that in the operation of any of these pieces, it can wiggle. Or if so, there's some junk in there that's like got in between the thingy that spins around, which is going to come back and recock the gun, basically. If there's like some gunk there in between it and the rod that acts as its axis, it won't jam because the pressure of the gas, which is making it spin around, its wiggle will be activated into that pressure if it's blocked, and it'll wiggle off. And so, then the gas itself has a wonderful ejection quality of getting shit out of there. So therefore, any gunk that gets in there gets loosened up. If it even gets to the point of jamming anything, it's instantly loosened up and ejected. And the thing that it was jamming isn't jammed. It wiggled off instantly under the pressure.
Right.
Do you see how the imprecision is actually one of its most important features?
Yeah.
And as I continued in that Patreon post, I wrote that although, the gun is loved by gun nuts everywhere, it's also deeply hated by a sort of subset of gun nuts. And particularly by the gun lobbies which serve the United States. And the M series of rifles, which is the standard military rifle, is built specifically in defiance of the Kalashnikov. There's no way on earth that any American gun will ever have that banana-shaped clip because it will look like a Kalash.
Right.
So they have to do all sorts of bizarre interior engineering to make their clip work because the banana clip actually fucking works. So the thing I'm trying to get at is that this other way of looking at things says that each piece needs to be precision engineered and fit
Right.
perfectly and interact with all the other pieces just the same way every single time. And that whatever materials we need to make it out of for that to happen, so be it.
Right.
And I should point out the gas pressure of the Kalashnikov, which fills the housing and makes everything happen and then vents instantly, is particularly effective against water. So therefore, if you have a soaking wet Kalashnikov, how do you clear it? Pull the trigger.
Right.
And all of a sudden your gun is dry.
Right.
And perfectly capable of firing. And the thing that is significant about that is that if you're not going to do that, then you have to build a waterproof casing.
Right.
And if you're going to build a waterproof casing, then you're going to need the right materials, you're going to need the right fittings, you're going to need the right everything. It's a big deal. It's a no compromise design.
There can't be much wiggle or else the water gets in.
Absolutely. And so, God help me, holes in the side so the gas vents. I mean, what the hell is that? That'll let the water in. You can't have that.
Right.
These guns, the M series, are touted most particularly for their maximum accuracy at maximum range.
Right.
And that's touted as the big thing. You can go and watch these lobbying videos for the latest, and it's all about how our man can take off the enemy's head, at range of 2 miles, with this kind of accuracy. Can you imagine the effect on enemy morale when the guy's head explodes next to you? That kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, but that sort of shit has absolutely nothing to do with massed troops, coping with massed troops.
Right.
And it has absolutely nothing to do with a running street battle in a chaotic circumstance.
Right.
So the point being that the Kalashnikov is sort of notorious when people realized that you could use the cleaning rod, as your can opener and stuff like that. It's that if you want to, you got to do a thing all of a sudden, and you got your rifle, and now I could talk about the strap and its utility. But if you don't have that, if that's not currently available or whatever, you just ram it nose down into the ground next to you, do whatever it is you have to do, and then pick it up and keep going, and who cares? And so the point I'm trying to say, though, is that if you do that with an M16 or any of the later versions of that, the gun's unusable. And the analogy to role-playing design is that, first of all, what's our task at hand? Why should we worry so much about edge case precision in the rarest of uses at the far edge of what this thing is supposed to be able to do as the top priority of design, first of all? And second, why are we scared of gunk? The attitude seems to be, for the other design, that it's bad that the Kalashnikov is fireable under those conditions because only a gross, dirty person would let your gun undergo those conditions. So there's almost kind of a fear of gunk than there is the fact that it's completely capable of firing when full of gunk is considered, gross, not good.
Right.
So I find the analogy to role-playing game design to be shockingly apt.
Yeah.
The notion that you have, here we are, we want the game to be about this, and we want to take a look at all the edge case scenarios in which this might not happen or we might not get there. So we have to find ways to make them happen. We need, okay, guys, this is going to be a tension scene.
Right.
All right, everybody, we all kind of, we do our little our little exercises, our little, psych up togetherness exercise, because we're going into the tension scene now. And when we do a tension scene, okay, everybody toggle over here. Everybody go, over there. And okay, how are you going to do it? Well, let's see. If I do it this way, then my axis will be conflicted like that. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. And do you see how that works completely against all that other set of rules that you had, which was all about to do it, you do it, and then we'll let the rules take care of us.
Right.
Which is kind of what sings forth from the rest of the design, or your statement of how to play. And yet all of a sudden, if we want to contrive these tension scenes as a dedicated moment, well, we got to make sure that they don't get gunky. I mean, this has to be a clean tension scene.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is that the activity of arriving at, oh my God, we're in a tension scene after all. Or the GM is in the narrator's in the current situation of suddenly saying, oh, wow, we're in this complicated situation. Bonk. Wow. Tension right here. I see it. It's already happening.
Right.
All I got to do is take that thing that we know is happening and that thing that we know is happening, just point out to everybody that they're happening at the same time.
Right.
Just that's all I have to do. And so the gunk of the unknown or the stated or what's going on in the scene or what I'm about to roll for and the kind of messiness of all of that. And you see, you wanted that messiness with your beats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your beats are intended to be unconstructed activity.
Yeah.
So do shit, don't wait is a big part of your game.
That's true.
So under these circumstances, it just seems very likely that you've already, embrace the gunk. Embrace your shitty mud, that got into your Kalashnikov housing and, just decide whether you're going to fire once or put it on auto.
Right.
And so, my goodness, that analogy is quite awful. But another interesting aspect of this, to stick with the gun thing, is that for the M series, you have a toggle on the gun, and you set it. Single shot, 3-shot, full auto. You actually have to stop, find the toggle, look at it, go click, 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 click to where you want it to be for your use. And
I remember
I'm sorry?
I was going to say, I remember I was reading some stuff from some American soldiers when I was doing a
Justin,
design.
You don't look the type.
And they were saying basically that they, before that and for the general, the lack of action movie utility of full auto, that they were like, I maybe 2-3 times turned my gun from single shot. Like,
right.
Never changed it.
Yeah. And so the idea that it is already built in to fire either way as a function of just whether the trigger is held down or not.
Yeah.
But there's something about the romance of that intermediate for some reason. The 3-shot, the triple shot with one squeeze.
Mm-hmm.
The romance of having that intermediate option is so attractive to a particular subset of gun enthusiasts that they say it's worth it. It's worth it. And to me, it seems very analogous to many role players who say, but we can't do without that particular option that we're used to.
The analogy is funny because it works broadly, but it also works generally in that so many action RPGs have a burst move.
Yeah, that's true too.
That burst and full auto.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of interesting. You know what? The Champions rules have a very, very complicated subroutine for their auto fire advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I am shooting that sacred cow, as it were, by just looking at the already existing rule for area attack.
Mm.
I mean, what is that attack but an area attack anyway? And if you want it to be really like a heinous area attack, then just give it, more dice.
Yeah.
So you've already got your rules for what you wanted from this thing without a subroutine which is specifically dedicated to that precise special effect.